This week I focus on improving the overall feel of the game, adding particles, visual effects and more. SCØUR is a fast-paced Biopunk FPS where everything is made out of flesh instead of metal. I am going for the ultra-kill style combat and visuals mixed with the disturbing Biopunk world of Scorn. I started by working on overkill effects. So when the enemies take too much damage, they explode into chunks. I also added boot spatter and hit effects, so every shot feels like it actually connects. A big part of this week was also refactoring code, just to make sure all these different effects work together cleanly. After that I added bullet impact particles and more effects for different weapons. For example, the grenade launcher now triggers a nasty pulse explosion on impact. For the hit scan weapons, mainly the rifle, I added a line renderer. So now you see where you're shooting instead of feeling invisible. Then I focused on improving the game feel, including getting the ragdoll physics working properly when enemies die. So now enemies react more dynamically instead of just disappearing when they die. Towards the end of the week I started working on the weapons themselves, because at this point I need the weapons to properly build the combat systems. Since I already had a high poly version, it was much easier to rebuild it in a low poly PSX style version. The pistol is probably the weirdest one. It shoots teeth, so I leaned fully into that idea and turned it into a living skull or face. The cheeks are basically stitched together with muscle, and I also added a tongue. Later on I want to animate the gun so it looks at the player and sometimes licks the barrel, just to make it even more alive and uncomfortable to shoot. Then I moved on to the rifle. The idea for this weapon is to shoot heated spikes. Because it uses an overheat system, I accentuated the design of the big organ, so I can make it glow brighter and more intense as it overheats. I also took inspiration from this layered, almost Gatling-like armor style, so the whole gun feels like it's wrapped in organic plating. For the rifle it shoots spikes, but since it's almost hit scan, you don't really see them in game. So I added physical spikes on top of the weapon to still communicate that idea visually. I added a bony structure at the base to give the rifle more shape, almost like a ribcage supporting the body. And to push the overheat mechanic I added these heat vents. The plan is to have smoke coming out of them when the weapon overheats, selling the overheat idea more. Here I am texturing the main organ, pushing darker edges so it feels integrated into the gun instead of just placed on top. I also shifted the color more towards red to support the glow I want later. For the shotgun I also already had a high poly base, so the main task now is to convert it into a low poly, low res style. And I actually made some pretty cool animation for it before. If you want to see the high poly version, it's on my Instagram, link in the description. The shotgun shoots bone fragments, and the flesh at the bottom acts like a kind of organic spring for the pump. This week was less about big systems and more about refining what's already there. I was also a bit burnt out this week, so I focused more on smaller, focused improvements instead of pushing something huge. Next up, finishing enemy animations, adding decals and more visual feedback, and building out a full weapon arsenal. As always, if you got ideas, feedback, or things you want to see in the game, drop them below or join the Discord for daily updates. You can also follow me on Instagram, and I see you guys next time.